Watson Caring Science Center would like to welcome you all to this afternoon's webinar. My name is Dr. Sarah Horton-Deutsch, and I am the Watson Caring Science Endowed Chair and the Director of the Watson Caring Science Center at CU. And I would love to invite Jim D'Alfonso and Priscilla Javed, who are Caritas leaders within the Kaiser Permanente, Northern California Innovating Nursing Scholars Academy. And today they're going to share their stories on collaborative ways they seek to develop personally meaningful and professionally innovative programs that infuse caring science. Kaiser is the longest affiliate of Watson Caring Science, and they have been using caring science throughout their organizations for many years. So I look forward to hearing more about their stories. Jim, why don't we start with you? Can you give us a little historical interview of how caring science has been adopted in Northern California, Kaiser Permanente?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone. We're really pleased to be able to share our experiences with you today, and really appreciate your taking the opportunity to join with us. We hope we'll have time for questions and other things toward the end as well. And I'll preface my little intro to say there also are articles toward the end that will help give you more background and information than what we'll be able to cover in such a short time. My role at present is the Executive Director for the Nurse Scholars Academy for Kaiser Permanente, as well as the Executive Director for Professional Practice, Leadership Development and Research in Northern California. And with that responsibility, I have obviously the privilege of being able to carry the torch for caring science. But actually the history of caring science in Kaiser Permanente goes back to just prior to 2008, and it really started out in little pockets, and I would say it reinforces the general knowledge of never underestimate the power of a few people. And for many of you who have been on the caring science journey for quite some time, we always talk about the caring science conspiracy. And I think that could never be more true than the story of Kaiser Permanente and how the caring science, I would say professional practice, has continued to flourish, but more importantly, how it continues to spread outward and into our communities, which is our topic today. The first thing for us was a beautiful alignment and attunement with the nursing vision of the KP model of care. And if you want to Google KP nursing pathways, you can get more information on that. But our basic nursing vision is very simple. It's extraordinary nursing care, every patient, every time. And with all of the expansions of healthcare reform, we now add on to it and everywhere. Because wherever the patient may encounter a Kaiser nurse, we want them to have the same experience. So we call that 1KP. We started this journey with 3 core guiding principles: to co-create caring, healing, and nurturing environments. This is a cultural transformation from the inside out. To foster helping, trusting, and collaborative environments, but also collaborative relationships built on relationships, and to honor health, healing, and wholeness. And how this all began basically was 2 nurses, and some of you may know those 2 nurses, Ann Foster-Ant, who is the Chief Nurse Executive for our Oakland Medical Center at present, and Esther Kern-Freulich, who also, both of them were in the first Caritas Coach program offered by the Watson Caring Science Institute in 2008 and beyond, 2010. They actually had an idea to bring the theory in to help connect their own employees at the Vacaville Medical Center, which was one of our 21 hospitals in Northern California. We have over 25,000 nurses spread across a large service area that covers from Fresno to Sacramento and all predominantly within the San Francisco Bay Area. And out of those 21 hospitals, they have a national and a regional guiding philosophy of nursing. And they were really trying to advance nursing theory and how nursing theory may help us continue on our journey for excellence for patient care. So they brought it into one facility originally, And with that original facility, the two of them both ended up at a brand new hospital that was opening in Antioch, California. And with the opening and with the ability to bring the theory in at the same time they were preparing to open the facility, they started out with job descriptions, interview guides, everything that was necessary to really start fresh and from the beginning, from the ground up, so to speak, with a caring science philosophy. And once they did that, with the support of the regional nursing leadership, the results became just overwhelmingly positive. And within a year, the results of service quality and other metrics were reaching the board of directors for Kaiser Permanente. And Antioch Medical Center just stuck out like crazy. And everyone was asking on the board what's going on at the Antioch Medical Center. And for those who may have experienced this in the past, when you have a new hospital open up, everyone's quick to dismiss the rapid successes to the fact that you have a brand new building. But this went way beyond anything as far as a pretty new building and a new setup. All the metrics were just totally much higher than other facilities. And the board asked the president of Northern California, who happened to be a nurse at the time, whatever you're doing at Antioch, you need to be doing that in every facility. And with that, the dialogue between Anne and Esther and the regional nursing directors expanded to include the president of Northern California. And they started to explore how they could introduce this to all 21 hospitals. And that being said, they had a huge forum in 2008 where the president stood up in front of every CEO or area manager, COO and CNE in Northern California and said, this by far is the most important thing we're going to undertake in the years ahead. And Gene Watson, a team of people from WCSI, myself included at the time, I was not an employee of Kaiser at the time, came and presented an all-day conference for those executive leaders on what it looked like to introduce caring science to Kaiser Permanente. In addition to that, we also did several all-day intensives with the chief nurse executives individually and helped them with transition best practices and leadership principles for introducing caring science. And from that, it expanded further into specific programs and actually frontline staff programs that we co-created with Watson Caring Science Institute and the faculty called Human Caring Programs. And they were 3-day programs that not only gave the frontline nurses in Northern California an introduction to the theory, but also gave them hands-on experience with several different modalities, from heart math to aromatherapy to, you can just about name it, we did it. It was like a mini ICC or International Caritas Consortium. We had lots of different modalities for them to experience. And then the spread began from there. Leading with care was a priority for us because obviously if you want to hardwire caring science and you really want to sustain the gains that you have, you really need a leadership team that's fully plugged in. And I'll pass the ball over to Priscilla to share the journey for leadership and how we expanded internally that eventually led to our Communitas programs.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Priscilla Javed, and I'm the Regional Director for Northern California for Nursing Professional Practice. And I'd like to be able to take an opportunity to speak briefly in regards to the article that Jim had referenced, or one of them, because that's the platform from which I want to be able to share with you what we have done and where we have taken it from that particular baseline. So the article that I'm referring to is a Caring Science article that was created by Ann Foster-Rant and Shauna McDermott, Gwen Kinney, and Trudy Triner from Northern California, Kaiser Permanente. And it was published in 2015 and it speaks to transforming our environment, our cultures, through various healing practices that were implemented. One of the first areas that I want to speak to is about leading with care and what was done from the leadership development perspective regionally. Initially, there were 4 different modules that were created to help support the development of our leaders in Northern California, with our assistant nurse managers, our nurse managers, our directors, and our CNEs. And these series were really focused on the relationship-based care from the perspective of Jean's work with relationships with self, relationships with patients and families, and with relationships with members of the healthcare team and within our communities. This was really built upon experiential learning and reflective practices, and a train-the-trainer model was developed in order to ensure that this would be spread at the 21 medical centers through the people who could represent this work and help reach out through their relationships with the local medical centers. In addition to that, we have expanded our leadership development through concepts of caring science and heart science leadership into our programs through work with the CNEs directly. That has occurred on a one-on-one basis, but also we have 2 programs. One is called the Nurse Executive Accelerated Leadership Development Program, and also our fellowship programs that are offered to some of our talented staff that are directors who have been chosen and selected by their leadership as upcoming leaders. And through these programs, we have infused caring science and the development of reflective practices, and included a strong support system for them with mentors as well as program coaches. Additionally, we've taken and adopted the AO&E competencies for for CNEs as well as for management, and spread those concepts and caring science through to the assistant nurse managers, and directors. And that has been a real strength for us, is to help come back and reinforce it through a competency structure. Next is an area that we worked on is with Tim Porter-O'Grady, who spent about 18 months here in Northern California doing outreach with our nurse leaders to demonstrate the importance of appreciative leadership for coaching and creating leaders while developing their transformational leadership skills. Today, we have over 60 Caritas coaches and over 45 HeartMath trainers in our system. And we are working with these individuals to reignite the passion out at the medical centers, and to also integrate self-care throughout the medical centers and connect with the new management and leaders as they arrive at our medical centers. We have had turnover in our CNE roles as well as our management and director roles, and it's important that for us to continue our culture, we continue to ensure that there's a connection point with these leaders so they understand the culture that's been established. Another area is what we refer to as caring science in action, and I want to speak a little bit about building off of concepts of professional practice being linked to Dr. Jean Watson's work, and then infrastructures that have been developed at the local medical centers. We have a major national patient care services program that's been implemented and is the process of being implemented in Northern California, that is referred to as the Voice of Nursing. And this particular framework helps to expand on the ANA's Code of Ethics as well as ANA standards of practice. And through this, we have been using some of the framework that was established of caring circles to help support and augment the implementation of this professional practice framework. This framework supports quality councils, and what we've done is we've connected this quality council framework with the caring circles so that they're one and the same. And it is through the engagement here with the staff that they look at various measurements in order to identify opportunities for improvement with Dr. Jean Watson's work through care experience. And we have added back, I can't remember the year we added it, it was after 2010 though. We added 2 additional questions to our HCAP surveys that helped to support caring science. And these 2 questions were, my nurses consistently provided care to me with loving kindness, and were nurses respectful to you, your religious and spiritual needs and beliefs? And we have done overview of this for the Northern California for 21 medical centers in order to help us understand how we are doing with our implementation. And then as we implement new quality improvements at the various medical centers, we're able to see what kind of an impact we're making on these 2 particular measurements. With also another foundation that we're doing to help support professional practice is we are working on a standardized content, because what we're finding that as over time, as individuals have learned more about caring science, they're starting to express it in different ways, which is wonderful, but we also want to make sure that there is a consistent foundation and a delivery of a standard that we can all agree to. So we're working with the Caritas coaches in Northern California to co-create a standardized content to help support the growth, because we firmly believe that the language is important, and the language we use helps to support our professional practice. We have a lot of great work happening at 2 of our innovation sites that we have here in Northern California. And we have one of them in which the chief nurse executive is going through the Caritas Coach program. And she is helping to truly lead Caritas in action from the perspective of what the nurses are doing daily, what their leaders are doing with rounding, and helping to connect it to the language of caring science. The third area I'd like to briefly cover before I turn this back over to Jim is I want to speak about our Caritas Consortium. We have conducted last year in 2016 our 6th consecutive Caritas Consortium. We have had 5 obviously prior to that, and we are engaging this year to conduct our 7th Caritas Consortium. Last year, the Caritas Consortium focused on celebrating the core of caring in practice, quality, and leadership, and we had wonderful support and attendance from our community at large as well as internally. And we had, of course, Dr. Jean Watson there every day, as well as our HeartMath colleagues helping to support the work, and several excellent speakers who were able to speak to caring science implementation and the work that they have done and contributed to the community at large. So at this time, I'd like to hand this over to Jim, who will be able to speak to how we continue to spread caring science throughout our communities and with our professional partners.
Thank you, Priscilla. And I think probably the first question most people ask is, how do you get all the support for these things? Understanding every organization has their unique challenges, whether it's leadership-wise or financially. We're very fortunate to be a not-for-profit. We're also the largest integrated healthcare system in the country, and a huge focus on wellness. I mean, that is the cornerstone of Kaiser's success. It's kind of threefold model, which is a health plan, which is prepaid, which is kind of the format for healthcare reform in the United States, perhaps one day. And also looking at the quality outcomes and the programs and things that support it. So a huge commitment by the organization to focus on the wellness of not just our members, which we love to call our patients members, because each of us is a member as well, but it really is around self-care and keeping people healthy and well. And of course, Caring Science is a wonderful venue for that. So these programs are great when you're trying to develop them internally and you're trying to develop an infrastructure to support it and sustain it. And I think we have pretty much a pretty good matrix for over the past 10 years, continuously evolving. And I think the important part to add to that is we have been able to be successful despite some of the changes and drama and things that have happened in the world around us, and remained very conscious of our community. So in 2000, I would just add that both Priscilla and I came to the regional offices in Northern California together. That was our conspiracy. Originally, we were responsible for all of operations in Northern California, and I had a direct role of the peer groups and partnerships with the chief nurse executives, and Priscilla had oversight for all of the professional development and everything that touched learning in the organization. So 2 years ago, basically a year and a half to 2 years ago, we were given the challenge by our executive leadership to develop a Nurse Scholars Academy. And the Nurse Scholars Academy vision was that if we want to continue this journey of developing our internal resources and reaching out to our community, we need to have a multi-fold approach to academic excellence, clinical excellence, leadership development, and community programs. So the Nurse Scholars Academy launched in January of 2015. We have students in baccalaureate programs, master's programs, and doctoral programs, and very close partnerships with academic partners here in Northern California, Samuel Merritt University. We help design a curriculum for RN to BSN to help along with the IOM goals and the vision for 2020 to get at least 80% of our nurses to a Bachelor of Science level. And that has been a huge success. It has been embraced by our frontline staff, and the faculty relationship with us has been very tight because they love the caring science aspects of it. So very successful program for our frontline nurses. From a leadership perspective, we partnered with the University of San Francisco. We have a clinical nurse leadership program, which is centered around a caring science framework. And we also partner, and Priscilla is a recent graduate of the executive leadership program and doctorate of nursing practice. And I'm getting ready to finish soon. We have literally hundreds of people in doctoral and master's level programs across Northern California, because we wanted to increase the level of professionalism, the level of engagement in faculty, and not just in the schools, but also in our facilities. And we wanted to be more actively engaged in evidence-based practice and the development of original research. So this was a really great gift to establish the Scholars Academy. And we're really just getting started. We're only in our second year now. So lots going on, and we already have new programs emerging all the time. One of the programs we launched last year was called the Illumination Series, and our first one was focused on authentic praxis and social justice. And we had Jean Watson and Robert Browning, and we had a priest who is a nurse with a doctorate degree come together for a special seminar which we opened to our community. And it was meant to be a scholarly dialogue on the topics of authentic praxis and social justice, and it was a huge success. One of the things that Priscilla and I are very fortunate to have in our leadership toolbox is we also have responsibility for community benefit. So the funding that is done through our not-for-profit side, which reaches out to the community through grants, through scholarships to nurses and programs that we develop that benefit our community, we have the ability to craft those types of programs. And each and every one of them for the past 10 years has had some focus on caring science at some level. We've also had equine programs going for the past few years for our leaders, where they're able to work with horses with the heart math and the heart math concepts and caring science together to really refine those skill sets. So there's just this continuous evolution of programs, I think, is the main thing to say. And our partnership extends to even now Stanford is hosting the fall ICP, and we're partnering with Griselle and her teams to participate, just like we've partnered with Stanford and Palo Alto VA and other hospitals and invited them to our internal Caritas consortiums. We'll continue to partner with our community partners. We want to do programs that are benefiting the public and reaching out to our members, schools, nursing schools and programs and so forth to keep that momentum going. We're conscious that we're creating the future. We still have a lot of challenges. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And Priscilla and I were both blonde and blue-eyed and very vibrant a few years ago. So you can see it takes its toll over time. You know, you just hope you can age gracefully. And you know what I would say, the one thing that's never challenged any of us that are deeply embedded in these programs is our inner passion and desire to see Kaiser lead the nation and the world from these caring science programs. I know it's what brought me to Kaiser after working for 2 years with Jean as the Chief Nurse Executive and Chief Operating Officer for the Watson Caring Science Institute. When I decided to return to the real world, I wanted to go to a practice environment and an organization that got the concepts and supported it. And that's what brought me here nearly 7 years ago. And that's what keeps me here, is the hope and the vision and the ability to play a very key role in shaping the future of the organization for nursing. So we see ourselves as continually building and strengthening our internal systems, but we really have a keen eye on the importance of the connection to the community and the community around us. We are making new friends all the time. We're always talking about caring science, and every partnership we have, they look to us as the experts in caring science. And our next Illumination program is Sarah, who's coming in May to offer a program that we designed with our community partners on a tour to caring curriculum, and to teach our faculty around Northern California and wherever they choose to come from how to design and work in curriculums in caring science. So the journey is just beginning, I would say. We're nowhere near where we would like to be yet, but we're on it.
Thanks, Jim. That's fabulous. I wanted to remind everyone before I make a comment that if you have questions, you can know that you can use the chat at the top or the bottom of your screen and write them. And Jan Anderson is with us from the Watson Caring Science Center, the director of the Caritas Coach Program, and she will help field questions. Before we go to questions, Jim, I just can imagine that participants are saying, wow, our executives and CNOs really need to hear this. I'd love for them to know about this Kaiser journey so that they have a sense of how they can support us in starting this journey. So my guess is there aren't a lot of executives on this call and CNOs, but I encourage you all out there to ask them to listen to the webinar, and it'll be available afterwards. Jan, do we have any questions?
You know, Sarah, we don't. I think there might be a technical difficulty with me seeing the question. So if somebody's written in the chat, maybe Sarah can see.
Well, I can see one regarding the articles, from Laura, and it was asking if the articles would be posted. As we mentioned, there are 2 articles, and one is from the Kaiser Permanente Journal, which is a peer-reviewed journal, internal, but published online. And that's an excellent article on the foundations for Kaiser Permanente. That's what Priscilla shared. The other one is available in NAQ, and it's about the future we envision and how we approached healthcare reform. And that's available as well. So both of those articles are there. But if anybody has questions, you don't get to ask them here, or you want to talk, you can always reach out to us by email or through Sarah or Jan or whatever. We're happy to help.
Yeah, that was awesome, you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. And as you can see, we've put up the final slide. These are upcoming events, and we will be sending, for those of you who all signed up for the webinar, we'll be sending those articles out to you so you have access to them. So I want to thank everyone, Priscilla, Jim, Jan, for being here today, and call out to Shauna McDermott, who helped organize and did the preliminary work on this webinar. So thank you all so much for joining us and sharing your caring science journey.
Thank you, everyone. It's our
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you.
Take care.